reconvene at 9:55. No final action, decision, or vote was taken while the board is in closed session. We'll move on to item 6A, Superintendent Report, Construction Report.
Again, we try to give you a very brief presentation, and we'll keep it brief. Dr. Fields, I think you have something to show them on that part. Mainly, again, what we do, folks, is to update you on the bond projects as they're evolving, because we're involved literally in the middle of that whole process.
In an effort to give you a more comprehensive outline of the construction report, under Dr. Montoya's direction, we put together a video that we can show in collaboration with the communications department. So without further ado, here you go.
Welcome to the November 2017 construction report, where we will take a look at some of the major work being performed around the district. Modernization and facility improvements for 10 campuses across the district were approved during the September 2017 regular board meeting. Those campuses are all elementary schools and include Candlewood, Converse, Crestview, Eloff, Millers Point, Olympia, Park Village, Pashaw, Spring Meadows, and Woodlake Elementary School. The 2016 bond will serve as the funding source for these projects, and the work here involves primarily the adding of full-service kitchens and minor cafeteria renovations, and the addition of a gymnasium and 12-classroom wing at Park Village Elementary. Currently, these projects are in the architectural contract stage, and work should begin at some of these campuses by June of 2018. Meanwhile, 2 campuses will see installation of playground shade structures. The purchase orders for these 2016 bond-funded projects are being generated for Coronado Village and Hartman Elementary Schools. Work on these playground shades should be completed in May of 2018. 6 critical roofing projects are currently underway at 5 elementary schools and 1 high school. The funding source for this is our district insurance due to the damaging hailstorms back in April of 2016. Work is currently in progress at Eloff, Hopkins, Masters, Park Village, and Pashaw Elementary Schools, as well as Wagner High School. These projects are currently in the beginning stages. Woodlake Hills Middle School is currently in the middle of a major campus renovation. 2016 bond funds are renovating the parking lot, providing soil stabilization, renovating the tennis courts, re-roofing the school, and improving the school's courtyard and lighting throughout the campus. These architectural renderings give a general idea of major renovations that are being designed for Kirby Middle School, which will see a completely different storefront appearance. It will feature an obvious main entrance to the school and a new wing next to that entrance. Meanwhile, this rendering shows Kitty Hawk Middle School's new gym and academic wing. These projects, which are 2016 bond funded, are expected to go out for construction bid by early next year. The second phase of Veterans Memorial High School is also in the design phase. This will involve the construction of a fine arts venue and the addition of a classroom wing to expand enrollment capacity to 2,400 students. This work is funded by the 2017 bond and will also include the development of a varsity-level baseball and softball complex. The construction of the elementary school site at Wortham Oaks is moving forward on the heels of the recent groundbreaking ceremony there. The estimated completion time for this campus is December 2018 and campus occupancy in January of 2019. Funding for this work and the elementary campus at Escondido North are both 2016 bond projects. The Escondido site is seeing the steel structures going up with a water easement in place. Completion is estimated to be July 2018. The operations department can be contacted for any questions or updates on these projects. Thank you for your attention.
So what we'll do is start posting this on the internet, on the web page, and then people will be able to view it throughout the month.
And then periodically, we'll bring back some other pictures and slides and updates, so.
Okay. Thank you. 6B, update on statement of impact by single-seat enrichment school.
That's kind of a formality. It's a private school opening that I will fill out the form. The general impact has always been that we lose kids and obviously funding. So it's a form that the TEA requires, and we're just making you aware. Periodically, we get those in the superintendent's office, and I fill it out and send it to TEA. So that's all it is.
Okay, we're moving on to item 6C, first reading on the following local policies. BBE Local, Board Members Authority. CDA Local, Other Revenues Investments. CKC Local, Safety Program Risk Management Emergency Plans. CNA Local, Transportation Management, Student Transportation. CO Local, Food Services Management. DF Local, Termination of Employment. DH Local, Employee Standards of Conduct. EJ Local, Academic Guidance Program. FEA Local, Attendance, Compulsory Attendance. FFA Local, Wellness and Health Services, Physical Examinations. FFF Local, Student Welfare, Student Safety. FFI Local, Student Welfare, Freedom from Bullying. GKA Local, Community Relations, Conduct on School Premises. GKC Local, Community Relations, Visitors. GKE Local, Community Relations, Business, Civic, and Youth Groups. 6D, update on Judson Education Foundation financial matter. Ms. Kenoyer.
Thank you. On November 8th, I attended a meeting with Attorney Benjamin Youngblood, and also present at the meeting were Ms. Marisa Perez-Diaz, who's our Jeff Relations Director, and Shannon Brown, who's the Treasurer of the Judson Education Foundation. And that was a meeting to provide background and to present questions that we wanted Mr. Youngblood to research. He is going to write an opinion. The timeline, because of the holidays, of course, is going to take him until approximately the end of the month. So at that time, he'll submit the opinion, and then next month we can have this as a discussion item further. And so no other action needs to be taken until we get that opinion.
Okay. All right. 6E, discuss the benefits and risks of self-funded health insurance plans. Mr. Macias.
Yeah, just wanted to, I guess, have that conversation and look. I know that we're not in the middle of procuring any health insurance, but due to our employees indicating that their costs have gone up, I wanted to know if we could initiate, I guess, some sort of research on what that would look like, just so that we're prepared for it. And if there is some data now, great. If it needs to come later, that's fine. But essentially, want to take a look at that.
Go ahead, Mr. Macias. Mr. Elizondo. I think he just woke up. Go ahead.
I grew hair? There you go. Dr. Field is going to show you all a video about this. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I told him he had earned too many brownie points this evening. We were going to have to do something about that. No, we would be happy to look at this, Mr. Macias, and we have in the past. With our Alamo Insurance Group, we've asked them maybe 4 years ago as to what their thoughts were about doing this. And to be honest with you, they came back with a little bit of a mixed message for us. One individual saying this was a good idea, the other one saying it wasn't good for the district at this time. But we will definitely do a little more research on this with them. And we may actually want to engage a different consultant service to kind of look at it, and somebody who's an expert in this kind of field, in this area, to give us a little bit of assistance with that. Because although we do okay with administering the plan that we have, if we're going to go into the self-funded area, we're going to need a little help with that. But we'll start that, and it will take a little while. It probably will be 3 months down the road before, but we can bring you a little bit of updates as we're moving through the process.
Okay. 6F, discuss writing a policy that the board authorize and review underwriters. Ms. Pichel.
Thank you. Dr. Montoya, the reason why I asked for this to be on the agenda, well, I was kind of hoping that there would be some sort of a draft or something that we would have, but there wasn't anything written in our packet. packets, but I was looking for something like, sort of like what we had on that other item that Mr. Macias brought to us on, whatever that was. There was some item he brought, and there was already a policy sort of drawn up, and I was looking for something like that, too. The only thing that I wanted to interject is that we were able to do this the way we did the healthcare brokers, and whenever the scoring is done and all of that, that it would be presented, they would have the opportunity to present to us when they chose the top 2 or 3, or however
And you
many
would vote on
respond
the
to our,
final one or
and that we
Yeah.
would, yes, sir.
And I think, Ms. Pichelle,
But
members of
have
the
that
board.
presentation, though.
Yeah, we can do something, Mr. Elizondo, from that angle to present a procedure, a policy that would take effect, well, not effect, but in the future, as it evolve, we evolve in terms of selecting underwriters, that we can take that process into fruition and let you folks look at the final 2 or 3, and, you folks voted as a board, and we proceed from there. But yeah, we can bring a policy, a process.
So, will that be something in our December?
You think, Mr. Elizondo, we could have something in next month?
Okay, well, excuse me. I'd like to first start off by sharing some information that Joan Gonzalez shared with me and the rest of the cabinet. When this item came up at the last board meeting, Mr. Gonzalez said that he would take the charge of trying to identify some policies from other school districts that could be brought forth as samples. Well, he contacted TASB and asked them to see if they could provide some samples, because that's typically the process. And TASB told him that they did not have samples because other school districts don't have policies for this particular procurement. That if our district wanted to do something like this, then we would have to either, one, ask our legal counsel to draft a policy that y'all could approve and they could review, or 2, give them parameters in which that their legal counsel could draft a policy once we told them kind of what we were looking for. They did say, though, that within our current procurement rules that we have in place right now, our policy, that the board can always ask us to do an RFQ for these services, but an RFQ is not required for underwriting services. It's one of the things that's exempted out of the law. So I was visiting with Mr. Westerman, who's our financial advisor, and said, hey, this is what the board is kind of wanting to do. They want to be involved in the process of selecting who the underwriters are, or approving who we select, or at least reviewing them. I said, how do you go about this? Do you have other districts that do this? And he said, yeah, we have a few that do get involved in that process a little bit. He said, and what typically happens is when we bring the order forward, asking the board for authorization to move forward with the bond sale, then we will also at that time present a list of the underwriters that are available to help us with the sale. And it'll be a short list and it'll be a long list that may list 20 or 30 different firms that can do underwriting services that are out there. And then we usually make a recommendation. These are the 5 that we want to use. And this is the lead, and these are the other 4 that are going to be involved in the transaction. And the board can look at it at that time and decide whether, yep, we're good with that, or no, we really would rather choose this other one instead of this. And if they're going to be on that list, it's going to mean that we're okay. If you choose any one of them on that list out of the 20, then they're going to do a good work. They're going to, we're going to be okay with them being as part of the syndicate, as they're called. So if that will work for you, we'll just make that part of the process, that when we bring the order forward, then we also bring the list of the 20 firms that are eligible, our recommendation, and then y'all can look at them and say, that's great, or no, we'd rather use this company instead of that company. It doesn't matter. If they're going to be on the list, we can use anybody on there, if that will satisfy what you're trying to accomplish.
I like the latter.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll just tell them from this point forward that that's part of the procedure that we'll use. And to be honest with you, it won't be until the next opportunity to do a refunding will be in 2019. So it'll be a little while before you see anything that has to do with bonds come forward in 2019. And then the next time for a new bond issue, maybe, I don't know, 3 years out probably. So it'll be a little while before it comes back. But we'll definitely tell him, and we'll put it in our procedure so we know that's what needs to happen.
And, okay, so. Where do we find that right now?
Sure, what I can do is let me do this. And I have it in the office. I just need to find it. But let me send to y'all, if not by tomorrow, for sure, when we get back from Thanksgiving, a list for maybe the past 5 to 7 years that we've been doing the bond sales and refundings. We maybe have done 9 or 10 during that time period, that I can show you a list of all the companies that we've used. So you'll see that we use different ones mostly. We may use 1 or 2 most of the time, but the other ones we change them all the time. But also, I will also send you a list of all the other ones that are out there that are available to use. But they change too. I mean, from year to year, they could, some will be added, some will be dropped. And the ones we're showing you on that list will be the ones that are doing, in our opinion, they're good at what they do. Because there may be some that are out there doing it, but they're too new, they don't have experience yet, and we don't want to use those yet. But that list that we show you after Thanksgiving will be different a year from now, because if those newer companies have been out there doing and they're doing really well, then they'll be on the, yes, these are okay to use kind of list. They're kind of.
And also, there will be companies that are not as experienced that would be on the list later as they get experience, is what you're saying.
Definitely. Yeah, we just don't like to be the first ones to use a company to sell our bonds. We want to make sure that they have a good client list, and once they're going to go to market, they're going to have people that are going to buy our bonds, and they're going to be able to sell them at the lowest interest rates possible so that our taxpayers don't have to pay so much on interest for the money that we borrowed to build our schools. Thank you.
Okay, 6G, discuss Senate Bill 725, creating and operating district food pantry. Ms. Michelle.
Dr. Montoya, I talked with you extensively about this, and I wanted to know what our district is planning on doing in order to implement.
I think,
This food pantry.
members of the board, one of the things that we fall with that concept is that because a lot of this is federal money for food service, there are some stringent requirements. That's one. And actually, this week, Dr. Fields and myself had a meeting with the mayor from San Antonio. He invited us to his office 2 days ago, and one of his topics at the San Antonio level, the city, was how can we work together to do pantries? We didn't realize that that was one of his topics till we arrived in his office downtown. And so I think he wants to also work with schools, districts, not just Judson, but school districts in general to implement some kind of a food pantry to help the community. So that's on the table. But I think, Dr. Fields, you had some information in terms of that area.
Yes, sir. Just a little background. The Senate Bill number 725, it says that campuses can elect to donate food to a nonprofit organization or open a food pantry on their campus ran by either a parent, a teacher, or a counselor, or someone affiliated with the campus, but it needs to be a volunteer thing. You can't have people on staff running the food pantry throughout the day. The types of food that can be donated by the Child Nutrition Department are packaged or unpackaged, unserved food, packaged served food if the package is in good condition, like a cereal bar or something like that, whole or uncut produce, an apple or an orange, wrapped raw produce, apple slices individually wrapped, bless you, unpeeled fruit required to be peeled like a banana, and but you can't overtly identify students who use the pantry, so you can't say at the end of the day all the students that need, food. Food can be distributed at any time if it's a parent or some volunteer that's running the food pantry. So if a student doesn't have enough money for lunch, they could go to the food pantry. I did ask Coach Dupree, who's on the SHAC committee, and Ms. Daniel, our Director of Child Nutrition Services, to stay behind because we had a long discussion about this. And one of the concerns from Child Nutrition is that, if you guys could go ahead and come up, please. One of the concerns from Child Nutrition is that they have to serve the food out of the kitchen before they can't just donate it to someone else. You can't order federally funded foods and then just donate it all to the food pantry. So if it's a way for them to use it, then they have to use it. And if they can use it, then there's really no reason to donate it to the food pantry. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. Is there any more you wanted to add on that, Janet?
Well, for immediate purposes, we have our shared tables, and that is where if a student takes an item and they don't want it, then they can put it at a shared table, and then another student can come and get it. So that's in place at several campuses, and there's also some other programs available that are the backpack program, and we've got 3 campuses on that, and I think there's another campus, and that's through the food bank too. So there's other avenues of, for immediate purposes that students can get food that is not being used.
But we are ready
Yeah.
to assist the campuses in establishing a food pantry on their campus in terms of identifying an area where they could use and then keep the AC on in that particular place to keep it from going up and down, and how they should store the food that they collect from the community. But in terms of who should run it, it needs to be someone who can volunteer on that campus. And then we can also take it through the shack to see if they can assist in some way in helping them solicit foods that could be stored in the pantry to give out. Because once they run out, there's nothing else to give, and we don't want to be in charge of soliciting the community to fill up the food pantry at the campus. Any questions?
So are you going to do this initiative? Do you have a plan? What is the organization? What are you going to do? Or do we have buy-in from the district? Is it important enough to you? My thing is, we have hungry kids. I can't identify who they are, but what I'm saying is, we've got campuses, maybe those campuses that are that high-risk transportation area. We got campuses where kids are hungry. And I want to know, with all this food that we have that gets wasted, is it important enough to you that we're going to do something? That's what I want to know. And if we are, how are you going to get the word out to the principals? That's what I want to know.
I would.
I want to know, how important is it to you guys?
I think that it's an initiative that's been started that San Antonio ISD jumped on. I think it's something that our district should implement, but it needs to be implemented at the campus level. We can bring it up at the next superintendent leaders meeting and solicit the principals on how they would like to go about getting that done. But it's not something that can be done from a district level. It has to be at the campus level.
I understand that, but it's going to have to come from the district in order for the principals to know. So, Dr. Montoya, what do?
Again, I think we have to, at the meeting itself, once we have the principals there, because we have monthly meetings, that could be a major topic. We explain what that's about. We explain the legalities, because as you've heard a little bit, there are some federal guidelines that we must follow. We don't have a choice. But the key is that it can be done at the campus level, but we can't use our staff. It has to be volunteers. That's probably the biggest issue. But can campuses find people? They probably can. They may have parents or community people or others that can probably come to each campus at a set time, each day or whatever, however they set the specifics, to be able to do that. So I think that's the key, is to get buy-in from the principals and to set up the process ethically and legally correct, and we can do that.
Well, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because you're telling me that San Antonio ISD is already
Yeah,
doing.
we can see
Okay,
how
so-
they're doing it. yeah.
Yes.
And we can kind of maybe talk to their food service people and kind of see
Find
the
out what they're
model
doing,
yeah.
and in addition to that, to extend it, if we decide that we're going to do this, and I hope that we do, Senator Bernal is the one that came up with this, and in some way or another, I'd like to see us recognize him
Yeah, we
in a
could do
resolution or
something,
something for the initiative that he has taken to get this Senate bill passed. It was important enough to Senator Bernal. I think that we should consider it for our district.
So we could do
I had an
something.
opportunity to be at a conference where Senator Bernal spoke, and what his intent of the Senate Bill 725 was to identify items that can be donated. And as Dr. Fields read those off, those were the packaged items, the unpeeled fruit, those types of items. So the SB 725 was put into place so that schools could donate those. But it didn't specify where it came from, I guess. It wasn't just child nutrition program, because Texas Department of Agriculture runs the child nutrition program, and we have to reuse items that we can in the program. And we can't be donating items from our program to something else that's not within the guidelines of the child nutrition program. So these are items that are, that he's got listed here that are already like past the serving line. Yes. I think we talked about that last week.
But I think, again, members of the board, we can look at that, and again, that we probably can do something. The key will be that we have principals that are willing to do it, and that we do it, again, ethically and legally the correct way. So we'll do something.
Will you,
Yes, we can come back with a update and stuff, so.
thank you very much for what you all have already done. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey,
Ms. Eaton had a question.
hi. I'm trying to understand what we're talking about. Are we talking about students that are like not getting lunch? Or are we talking about food for families at the end of the day or the end of the week or? what?
No, ma'am. This is a food pantry that can be set up on a campus. They can solicit from the community to bring in items that can be given out to the students. That's either during the day, prior to them getting ready to go home, anytime they feel like they need some of the food from the food pantry, if those foods are there and available. But again, they'll only be able to give out the foods that people bring and donate in. Once they run out, there's nothing else to give. So they can take the food and go home with it, or they can eat it during lunch. They can go down there throughout the day. If the nurses have a student that comes in that's hungry or needs some food because of a condition, they can go over to the food pantry and get it out, as long as someone's there to volunteer to sign it out.
To sign it out.
Yes, ma'am.
And so this would be available for any of the students?
Definitely, as long as someone's there to manage that food pantry throughout the day.
Okay, and we have to rely on outside people
Correct.
to donate
Volunteer
food
people to
in?
come. Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking about the donation of the food.
And for
It's
the
coming
donation
from
of the
people
food as
on the
well. You'd have to
outside.
set up a time that on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock is when we're going to take in food,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're going to distribute foods at lunchtime or at the end of school on Thursdays or whenever
Okay,
appropriate.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Macias.
This plan to feed those that are in need, earlier we discussed the item to initiate a study, and that study would look at factors of why kids are not reaching a certain grade level, or why can't we push them. I will say that most of the time, those that are at risk are the ones that are hungry. And so by initiating the study, we're able to determine really quickly which kids meet that criteria so that we can benefit them on the food pantry side of it and have them partner with nonprofits. So the vision of it is there are nonprofits doing this work if we can't do it due to federal guidelines, just to ensure that student needs are being met and families are being met. So I'll just say the ones that voted against it are very disappointed. But anyway, just to make that point, thank you.
Update on board advisory committees? Oh, Ms. Eaton, you want to speak again? I'm sorry. I apologize.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that right in the middle of our school district, no, not in the middle of it, but over by the area that we seem to be most concerned with by my house, there is a food bank right across from Walmart on FM 78, and it's called Blessed Angels, and we do a lot. You know, that's why I'm asking about this, because there is a food bank there. Veterans Day, we must have serviced close to 500 families with turkey, all the trimmings for Thanksgiving. We gave out Thanksgiving baskets, and I mean, we did a lot. So there's a food bank right here in that area we're concerned about.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Dr. Montoya, I just emailed you and Dr. Fields, there's an organization called Be a Champion. They just came out to present at Poteet ISD. It's a nonprofit. I don't know if you've heard of Be a Champion, but as long as it's after 2:30, they will serve a meal for any child that's staying after school. They can't take the meal with them, but that's for anybody who's in tutoring. Somerset uses it, I believe, for all extracurricular activities. We're looking at it for any of our students that are going to be staying after school. And you could even stop the school day a little early if you wanted to and make sure almost like breakfast in the classroom, you could also have this, and it's for, you can do one classroom, you could do one grade level, you could do one school, you could do the whole district. But I just sent you that information. It's all free. It's all meets federal guidelines. Thank you. Thank you. 6H, update on board advisory committees. Does anyone have any updates? Ms. Barra, I believe, has some news to share.
We've had some questions about when do the board advisory meetings meet? And so what we've decided to do is on the 12th, I believe it was the 11th, we will have a general meeting for the public and the board members that have been assigned to the different board advisories. And in the past, we've done this before where we announce it to the public, then the public, as they come, get to select the area that they want to go to for more information, if they want to participate, in that particular bond advisory committee. So far, we have it on the 11th at JECA at 6 o'clock, and Mr. Linscomb will be sending out more information so that, and the board members will be sent an invitation as well, so that we can at least start our initial meeting before the semester's out.
Okay, so we'll be getting that information.
Yes, you'll be getting that information. We discussed the board committees. We looked at the cabinet members that were assigned to the different areas. And then there was only one change that Dr. Montoya had recommended that we make, and that was the finance. Finance is included with building and something else. And he said, let's leave finance by itself and move that to the bond, because since we're not looking at another bond. So he asked that if we kind of change that title, it would still stay with a bond and building committee, and finance would be by itself, and then the others would remain as they are.
Okay. All right. 6I, update on board training, conferences, events, and consider future agenda item requests by board members. Ms. Eaton, do you have any items, future agenda items? Anything you want to? No, ma'am. Okay. Ms. Rodriguez? No. Ms. Pichelle? No. Mr. Macias?
I'll refine that a little bit more.
Internal audit for a specific group or just
No, more HR.
HR? Okay. Ms. Canoyer?
A presentation on the equity plan, and then I also have an event I'd like to talk about, 2 events.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I attended a Veterans Day program along with Dr. Montoya at Veterans Memorial High School, and it was the Olympia elementary students who came over and performed, and there were also some other really good presentations by groups from the high school. And I thought it was a great collaboration of our high school and elementary school. So that was a lot of fun. And then also, our marimba group from Coronado Village Elementary has been invited to perform at Carnegie Hall. And they're doing fundraising for that. And there's going to be a big marimba extravaganza at JECA next week, the 6th, right? And so, the 5th or the 4th, whatever, next week, next Monday, and so, after Thanksgiving. And so, wanted to encourage my fellow board members to attend and show support, and they're going to have a silent auction and a spaghetti dinner and all those kinds of things.
Mr. LaFoille. Ms. Pashon.
Well, since you mentioned Veterans Day, yeah, I went to two Veterans Day programs also. The one at Converse Elementary and what was the other one? Both of them were great. At two elementary schools. That's where I went. I went to Hartman and I went to, there were. I went to Hartman and I went to Converse.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll move to item 8. Consider and take possible action regarding items discussed in closed session. Consider and take possible action regarding personnel. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. LaFoille, second by, is that Ms. Pashon? Okay. We will proceed to vote. After. Motion carries 7-0. And Dr. Montoya has an announcement.
I'd like to introduce 3 of our new people that were just approved, and we thank the board for that. Obviously, one of these people are key for our budgets. The payroll coordinator, Deborah Torres, I don't know if she's here. Yeah, thank you. So she'll be working with finance. And our other one is our Kitty Hawk assistant principal, Mr. Dwayne Simmons, if you'd stand up. Thank you. All right. And of course, our new Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction, Mrs. Cecilia Davis. So welcome. All right. Okay, and that's it.
Okay, if that's it, meeting's adjourned at 10:32.